PTI is a world leader in providing package design, development, and manufacturing support to the plastic packaging industry. We like to use the tagline, PTI packages solutions, and we do that by providing innovation, technology, and service.
Many people will refer to us as a brain trust of the plastics industry.
I think one thing that makes PTI stand out from other plastics companies is that we really want our customers to succeed.
My experience, I came from Western Container, which was one of the first co-ops of Coca-Cola. So that's where we got involved in self-manufacturing of bottles. What that means is Coca-Cola decided to make their own bottles. We utilized PTI to provide the technology. Actually, in the beginning, Western Container started, and we were trying to hire an individual to be able to run our engineering services. That individual is Tom Brady.
Coca-Cola and several entrepreneurs within the Coke system decided that they wanted to make their own PET bottles, which you could do in principle, whereas you can't make your own glass or metal containers for technical reasons. And so they came to me and said, would you help me do that? And because Owens, Illinois had decided not to expand that business, and even though at the time I was a vice president at Owens, Illinois, I decided to leave to help them. There was no conflict of interest. And so I literally walked out of Owens, Illinois on December 21st, 1985, and took an office looking up at the Owens, Illinois building, and started a company called Plastic Technologies to help Coca-Cola self-manufacture their own containers.
We used that first contract that Tom negotiated with Coke to build a company that provides technical services for the whole industry.
If you look at the family of companies, well, I started PTI 30 years ago. Phoenix Technologies, that's now the largest producer of recycled PET in the country, was really the brainchild of Bob Deardorff, who started that company and grew it and is now the president. He was my first employee. My second employee, Scott Steele, is now president of PTI. And my third employee, who I say is also one of the 4 founding members, is Frank Smirsky, who started PTI Europe almost 20 years ago. He spent many weeks in Europe looking for the opportunity and did start up that company, as well as the packaging conference that's now the largest recognized conference in the industry. And the other founding member, perhaps more important than all of us, is my wife Betsy, who has from the beginning established the financial, administrative, and legal systems at PTI. And it was her idea to have and develop the employee ownership model that we've used as the platform ever since the beginning of PTI.
My history with Tom Brady goes back to when I was at college in the University of Toledo and looking for a summer job. And they were in the practice of hiring interns for summer work. And I was lucky enough to get picked and started working in the laboratory where we were making, the early PET soft drink bottles. Because my success really grew out of that experience of being an intern, all of us have had a steady desire to give other people that opportunity. And we started hiring interns from UT back in the early days.
PTI had about 7 employees when I was hired on, again, as a part-time student while I worked at UT. And the founders of PTI also went to the University of Toledo as engineering students, and they worked part-time at Owens, Illinois, and that's where they all came from. So they were familiar with the idea of hiring engineering students to work part-time, so that's what they chose to do with me as well.
23 years ago when I hired here, we had one injection machine and one blow machine. And it was a fairly small building. We were down at 14th and Adams. And then we were there for a couple years, and then we moved across the street. And then from there we moved over here because we outgrew that building over there, and we built this here, and then we outgrew it, and we had it on and added on, and we had to build a warehouse.
So we've grown in a number of different ways in terms of our staffing. We've increased our number of engineers using the UT co-op program oftentimes to find and recruit new young engineers into PTI. We've also grown in terms of our sophistication and a lot of our testing. So our original hot barns where we did environmental stress crack testing were literally barns bought at the Andersons that we would equip with a heater and add moisture using a humidifier.
We used to go to McDonald's to get coolers full of ice to do testing with, as opposed to, now we have an ice machine and things like that, so we don't need to do that. But we were a small company, we were a startup.
Today, we hire a range of people, and not just technical people, obviously. We have to get people that are experienced in sales and marketing and finance, but we've been able to do that primarily from local resources here.
The co-op program is not just about the employer. Really, the purpose of the co-op program is for the students to figure out what they want to do and to really understand what the engineering world is like. They are learning professional development. They are learning how to work in a professional setting. They are learning how what they're learning in school applies.
In our business, our primary hiring comes out of the UT co-op program.
It started when I was really in college and looking for an intern job, and I was lucky enough to get hired by Owens, Illinois as an intern in the early days of when they were pioneering the plastic beverage business here in North America.
Co-op students get a chance to evaluate us, decide they really want to work here or not, and we get a chance to evaluate them. But as importantly, they're getting real experience here.
It gives students the ability to learn in their desired field and to make mistakes. In those mistakes, we have mentors here that teach us, that grow us, that help us learn from those mistakes. In my opinion, that's the best thing about the co-op program.
One of the biggest things that an employer looks for when they're looking at somebody's resume is if they have relevant work experience. Getting that work experience as you're still going to school before you even get that degree gives you a huge step above graduates of other colleges.
A lot of times, a student will leave college and be pretty knowledgeable in the stuff they've been taught in college, but they won't have any idea how to employ those skills in the real world because they've come from a book and they're real skills, but they haven't used them. Working at PTI, you get to go around and I get to figure out how to collect data on something and then analyze that data and come up with something that's meaningful. I get to learn how bottles and preforms are designed and then do it. I get to see a problem and find a solution myself and work with others. You're not just on an island, you're in the midst of a lot of intelligent people.
Development for us isn't just, creating a cool design. It's the whole process to make sure that it's a cool design, make sure that it works appropriately, make sure that it's efficient packaging, uses minimal amount of material, and produces packaging which effectively gets the product on the shelf without waste and loss of quality. But that requires a lot of steps. It's design, prototyping, testing and validation, as well as helping customers take it to the production floor.
So what we are doing is we help the customers understand what their needs are. So we have a lot of customers who know, I need to get this bottle on the shelf at Target. Okay, but they may not know what goes in between here and there. So what are you going to fill in that product? Does that product need any barrier? Does that product have to have certain requirements for pressure or for vacuum? So we help them understand what they may not understand. And if they do understand that, we help them make it reality.
We have a team approach at PTI. Project engineers, our project managers are the lead contacts with the customers, but we are often in meetings with customers trying to define the specifications for their design and trying to get that instant and first-hand feedback on if we've captured design intent or not.
We use 3D printing to verify designs. We're able to take a part that could take weeks to get an actual sample from a blow motor. And we're able to condense that down to just a few days by using 3D printing technology, whether it be FDM or SLA.
Once the CAD files of the bottle and the preform is finalized, we try to evaluate them for comparing it with their performance specifications to make sure that it is meeting what it's supposed to meet. We have to constantly learn new ways and techniques to doing certain things, and we are figuring out how to make our models for predicting performance more accurate.
So another unique thing that PTI offers in technology development is not only having the ability to design packages and fabricate and prototype those packages, we also have a very strong understanding of the material aspects and how that plays upon designing and manufacturing. So within the bigger scope of the company, our materials understanding is unique. We work with other groups within PTI, like the simulation and modeling group.
What we do in the development allows us to give customers real confidence and answers so that when they do go to production, they're successful. And then the second phase or another phase of PTI is our plant support, where we go to the factory and literally make sure it happens.
Our department will really verify that the package is doing what it's supposed to do if it's a development project. So I would say about roughly half of what we do is testing we do is for package development. So if that's one of those projects, then our job is to test the package, evaluate it, make sure it's meeting performance requirements. We may help develop new performance requirements in a spec if one doesn't exist. And then the other half of what we do is just independent testing, where someone just, it's maybe not a project that we're running here, a development project, but it's just testing someone's packaging or testing their material, looking for contamination. Again, things like performance testing we might do.
Once we have the project package developed, a lot of times the customer will ask us to go ahead and make tooling, and we'll blow the bottles here, or they'll maybe want to blow the bottles in their facility. But majority of the time we do it here.
I would say that you can walk into PTI with a sketch on a napkin or an idea in your head, and we can do everything from designing to prototyping to testing to production. So you can literally walk in the front door and walk out the back door, as an analogy, with a real production product. And many of the products that we design and develop are made in the millions and billions. So when we design a Coke bottle or a Colgate-Palmolive soft soap bottle, those are things that are made in the hundreds of millions, if not billions.
From the point of conception of a product to it's being put on the shelf, PTI really has their hand in just about every aspect of that.
PTI is more today than just PTI, the Engineering Service and Technology Development Company. It's a family of companies, and I mentioned those companies. Phoenix Technologies, that's the largest producer of recycled PET. To put that in perspective, 1 out of every 20 bottles, soft drink and water bottles in this country, come back through Bowling Green, Ohio at Phoenix Technologies, and we reprocess that and turn it back into food-grade recycled PET that goes back into soft drink and water bottles and other food-grade products. Preform Technologies is now a recognized niche manufacturer of specialty and technically challenging products. PTI Europe services our European customers. We have a joint venture laboratory, the PTI Testing and Analytical Laboratory in India, that services our Indian customers. So all of those companies, and probably more to come, grew out of the platform that I started 30 years ago, but it really is all attributable to the people that have followed me and stayed, by the way, for 25 or 30 years at PTI.
It really has been a great journey for us to go from the idea of providing development as a service to building a company that does that.
The future for PTI and for many companies really lies in how do you take the talent and experience base that you have and find the next gaps, if you will, in needs in the marketplace.
It's hard to explain what we do, but when you go to the grocery store, you can clearly see where we've had an impact.
I was interviewed by the Blade and asked, what I thought about PTI, and I said it's the best place I've ever worked. And I can say 23 years later, or whatever the number is, it's still exactly that.